Welcome back, everybody, to Niners Now. I'm your host, Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. You can follow me there. And it is time for the 49ers Week 10 preview show. The Niners have a massive game this week as the LA Rams are coming to Levi's for an NFC West battle. And this one's going to matter quite a bit. Now, of course, stick around until later in the show because we're going to take a look at the NFC playoff picture as a whole and where the 49ers might fit into it. But of course, before we begin, go ahead and subscribe down below. I really appreciate the support you guys have been giving. The trade deadline was huge for us. Every subscriber means a ton, so if you're not subscribed, please consider it. Leave a like, leave a comment, and let's get into the video. So first, it's time to talk about the game day checklist, right? And when it comes to the Rams, this is an upset, right? I think everyone expects the Rams to win this football game. So if the Niners are going to win, it's going to be an upset. So this week's edition of the game day checklist is kind of the recipe of an upset, if you will. And I think that starts with starting strong and finishing strong. Now, this is something the 49ers were able to do very well in week 5 when they played the Rams last. The Niners scored 2 touchdowns on their 2 opening drives. I believe it was 14-0 early in that game. And that was a huge reason that they were able to win whatsoever. So they were able to build a bit of a buffer while the Rams were kind of floundering early on in the game on offense and defense and special teams, right? So starting strong is going to be huge. The 49ers are going to have to do that once again if they want to beat the Rams. The Rams are coming off of their bye week and then a game against the Saints, which honestly, if you listen to how the Rams have been talking about this game, they kind of see it as like another bye week or like a tune-up game. You know how in college football, the powerhouse programs will pay a tiny school to come to their house and play a little tune-up game for them. That's kind of what the Saints were for the Rams last week. And, you know, this is their words. It's not ours, right? Jared Verse played, 20 snaps in that game? It's a tune-up, and they admit it too. So it's been a little while since the Rams actually played like at full force, I guess you could say. Now, they did absolutely mollywop the Saints, so you can argue that they were playing to their best of their ability in that game. But I think there is room, which is my point here, I think there is room for the 49ers to punch them in the mouth again. It's been a while since the Rams played the 49ers, right? It's been a while since that feeling, right? It's been a while since the Niners walked into SoFi Stadium and just marched down the field for 2 consecutive touchdown drives to open up the game. So I wonder if the Rams are in fact vulnerable to that once again. So that's starting strong, but you also have to finish strong, right? And I think, of course, obviously that's fourth quarter, overtime. If it goes to overtime again, got to finish strong in the fourth quarter and potentially overtime, right? But you also need to finish the first half strong, right? You hear Kyle Shanahan talk all the time about like that middle 4, right? The last 2 minutes of the first half and the first 2 minutes of the second half. It's crucial to win those middle 4. I think that's huge for momentum, and that's something the 49ers place a lot of emphasis on. And when you're playing a team as dangerous as the Rams, it's important to really start strong and really finish strong, all right? You might be able to afford a couple miscues in the middle of the game, right? But ideally, it doesn't get too out of hand. You want the 49ers to dominate the first quarter, dominate the fourth quarter, and hopefully that second and third quarter, it doesn't go too badly. That's what I'm hoping for, at least. Next up on the game day checklist is for the defense. I want the defense to get 5 stops in this game. 5. That's how many stops they were able to get against the Rams in week 5, last time they played, and that includes the overtime stop. So, get 5 stops, and I think the 49ers have a real chance at this game. I know the defense for the Rams is fantastic, and it'll give the 49ers offense problems, but I think if the 49ers defense can get get 5 stops, I really believe in their ability to win this game. I'm kind of done expecting the defense to carry the load. I just don't think it's realistic. I don't think it will happen. I don't think if Bryce Huff and Sam Aquanu are your top 2 pass rushers, I don't think it makes a lot of sense to rely on the defense. So I'm not going to. I'm challenging them as a part of this game day checklist right here to get 5 stops, but I don't think Like, I think the 49ers could win this game if the defense gets 4 stops or 3 stops, right? But if they get 5, then I really feel good about their chances and the offense's ability to score. So 5 stops for the defense. Now, obviously, this is going to be really hard. The Rams are a very good football team. They've got Puka Nacua. They've got Devontae Adams. Both of those two guys are on fire. They've really been getting all of their tight ends involved. Tyler Higbee, Davis Allen, Terrence Ferguson. They've got Kyron Williams in the backfield. Blake Corum has gotten snaps every once in a while. It's a pretty loaded offense. And of course, Matt Stafford is, in that early, or I guess mid-season MVP race. So it'll be really tough. It will, without a shadow of a doubt. But if the defense can just do enough to get 5 stops, I don't need 5 interceptions, right? I don't need 5 punts forced. But if they can just get 5 stops, then I'm confident in the 49ers' ability to actually make this a game. And now our last item on the game day checklist, this one's for the offense. Establish the run, especially the outside run game, okay? The Rams, their weakness of the defense is the back 7, right? There's no surprise here. We talked about this in week 5 as well. That is where this defense is weakest. Where they are strongest is the defensive line. So I think if you want to neutralize the defensive line and attack the back 7, the best way to do that is to really make them tackle, right? Get the ball to the outside, maybe run a couple of screens, right? Run some stretches. Keep running those crack tosses. Those worked great against the Giants. Keep running more of that. Make the corners and the safeties, make those guys engage in run defense. Because I think you've got a much better chance doing that than you do running it up the gut right at guys like Poona Ford and Kobe Turner every single first down, right? So establish the outside run game. I think it'll be easier to do now that George Kittle is back in the fold. I'm not sure if Kyle Juszczyk played against the Rams. I don't believe he did last time they played. That might have been the game he missed. I know he missed like one game earlier in the year. But yeah, outside run game, right? Keeps the offense ahead of schedule, keeps the defense off schedule, and it attacks the back 7, which is exactly what you want to be doing anyways, right? So that is my game day checklist for week 10. Start strong, finish strong, get 5 stops on defense, and establish the running game, right? Those are my 3 keys to this game. That's my checklist. Let me know down below if you think there's any other important factors that I've forgotten about here as we get on to our 3 key matchups in this game. Number 1, this guy didn't play in week 5, and I expect him to make a pretty big difference in this one. It's George Kittle. George Kittle versus Rams linebacker Nate Landman, right? Not sure who they're going to cover Kittle with. Maybe it'll be Landman. Maybe it'll be Omar Spates. Maybe it'll be Cam Curl or Cam Kinchins, their safeties, right? But regardless, whoever's covering Kittle, they're going to have to cover him really well because George Kittle has done a lot of damage to Rams fans over the years. Real ones might remember when he, for a brief moment, held the tight end single season receiving yards record and broke that record against the Rams. That was a huge win for the Rams on that day, but a nice moment, a nice little bit of history for George Kittle in that one as well. Kittle's a beast. He's getting more and more comfortable in the offense, and genuinely, I don't think the Rams have a single player in their secondary who can cover him. So I'd like to see George Kittle really involved in this game. I'd like to see him as Mac Jones' safety blanket, or Brock Purdy, depends who ends up playing, but I think it'll be Mac Jones. I'd like to see him be Mac Jones' safety blanket. I'd like to see him, not only keep the offense ahead of schedule, but maybe get a couple of chunk plays. Maybe you're able to get George Kittle open a couple of times for some big shots, right? Maybe this is the spark that you need to really get this offense humming. George Kittle versus Nate Landman. That's one I'm circling. And of course, in the run game, too. Kittle's an awesome blocker. He's going to have to seal off some of these edges. Probably going to have to seal off a Jared Verse or a Byron Young, right? But he's also going to have to seal off some linebackers. He might have to climb to the second level, deal with a guy like Nate Landman or Omar Spates in that second level, opening up room for Christian McCaffrey and hopefully Brian Robinson Jr. to have some nice big runs. So George Kittle versus Nate Landman in the passing game and the running game. That's one key matchup to watch right here. Number 2, I've got Dom Pooney versus Poona Ford. All right. Dom Pooney had a huge bounce back game last week against the Giants. And while the Giants front isn't as impressive as the Rams front, at least they have not been this season, I was still really impressed with Pooney's ability to bounce back. It has been a tough season for Pooney. That injury that he suffered in the preseason has really affected his play. And I'm hoping that he can finally get back to that fringe Pro Bowl level guard that he was in his rookie season. Because having that would be a huge asset for the 49ers. Having Pooney at full strength could really help this offense go when it comes to the run game, when it comes to the passing game. Having Pooney healthy and 100% and playing to the best of his abilities, that's a really underrated facet of this 49ers offense. And I think going up against Poona Ford, who is just such a disruptor in the middle of this defense, he is so good against the run. And honestly, Poona Ford's going to have his wins against no matter who he lines up against. He's going to have his wins, right? He will beat Dominic Pooney on at least a couple of reps in this game because he's just that good, right? He doesn't get a lot of national recognition. Poona Ford is that guy. He is good. But if Pooney can mostly keep him in check, then I think the 49ers run game will be in a great shape, and I think they'll be able to keep the offense ahead of schedule, right? I keep saying that. I feel like a broken record, but, it's important against a good Rams defensive line. Stay ahead of schedule. And now one more key matchup I want to talk about. This one, I'm kind of cheating because it's more than one person here. But in week 5, we talked about Bryce Huff, and I'm going to do it again. Bryce Huff and Sam Aquanu versus Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein. Now, those are the 2 starting offensive tackles for the LA Rams. And this comes down to the pass rush. Bryce Huff and Samo, these are the 2 best pass rushers on the 49ers roster right now, at least at the edge position. We'll see where Keon White lands on that, that list by the end of the year. But for right now, it's Bryce Huff and it's Samo. Those are the guys that you are relying on to rush the passer, to pressure the quarterback, and to make plays, right? So you need those guys to really step up against Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein. Huff did have a sack last time they played the Rams. It was very early on in the game, back when the 49ers were, really giving it to him. So I would love to see more. I would like to see more from Bryce Huff. And Samo's kind of been on a tear recently. He was awesome against the New York Giants. And, not just going up against Marcus Bowe on the right side. He was facing off against Andrew Thomas. Now, Andrew Thomas is phenomenal, and he did get the better of Sam Aquanu. But Samo held his own, and I think he could really have a nice game against Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein. So that's what it comes down to, right? Pressuring Stafford, and especially if you can do it without blitzing, because Stafford he's been in this league forever. He's a veteran guy. He's dominant. He'll pick apart a blitz. So getting to him with 4 is going to be pretty crucial. And to me, that responsibility lies with Bryce Huff and Sam Aquanu. So those are my 3 key matchups for this game. I've got George Kittle versus Nate Landman, Dom Pooney versus Poona Ford, and Bryce Huff and Sam Aquanu versus Alaric Jackson and Rob Havenstein. Did I forget about any important matchups? Maybe Eddie Pinheiro versus whoever the Rams start at kicker in this game? Let me know down below in the comments. Now let's get on to our next segment where we talk about the NFC playoff picture. So the 49ers are 6-3, right? Halfway through the season. But where do they land in terms of the playoffs? Well, I think when it comes to the NFC, there's 10 teams that are really still in it. And I guess there's a couple teams that are fringe. But if you've got 3 wins or less at this point, I'm not taking you super seriously as a playoff team, at least not yet. So narrowing that down, we get 10 teams. The 49ers are one of those teams, and they're only a half game outside the 1 seed. The Eagles are currently the 1 seed at 6-2. Also at 6-2 are the Buccaneers, the Seahawks, and the Rams. 49ers are a half game back of all of those teams. Those guys, plus I guess you could throw the 5-2-1 Packers in there. That's probably the top class of the NFC, right? Those are the teams that pretty much everyone expects to make the playoffs, probably win the divisions. Seahawks and Rams, one of those teams is likely going to be the 5 seed, right? So a hot streak, I think, could certainly land the 49ers in that group, right? But they will need to get a lot more wins. As they are currently right now, I don't think they belong in that upper echelon. Of course, they have beaten the Seahawks and they have beaten the Rams, but they haven't played the Packers or the Eagles, and they lost to the Bucks, right? So hopefully they can, be competitive with those teams, but I don't know if they are as good as those teams, especially with all these injuries coming down the pipeline. Winning this week against the Rams, that would be huge to really solidifying the 49ers as a member of that top class in the NFC. I mean, sweeping the Rams with this amount of injury misfortune, that would be huge. That would be huge. And it would keep the dream of an NFC West title alive, certainly. 49ers could earn themselves a home playoff game if they're able to beat the Rams and just kind of keep pace with the rest of the NFC West over the course of the season. Now, not far behind those top teams, you've got the Lions, the Bears, the Panthers, and the Vikings. So while the 49ers are only a half game back of the Eagles, the Lions and the Bears are only a half game back from the 49ers. Lions and Bears are both 5-3. Eagles are the 1 seed at 6-2, right? So, I mean, this conference is loaded. This is going to be a really, really tough playoff battle, right? And I think a hot streak from any of these teams could land them a top 2 seed in the conference, including a team like the Bears, right? Or like the Seahawks. Any of these teams are still in play for the 1 seed. So all of these games are going to be massive. And then 1 game back from the 49ers, you've got the Panthers at 5-4, and the Vikings are 4-4. So a game and a half behind the Niners. But if you look at this group, Lions, Bears, Panthers, Vikings, 49ers, only 2 of those teams can make the playoffs. If we're assuming that the whole top class makes it, that only leaves 2 wildcard spots available. 2 wildcard spots available, right? So the 49ers are going to have to win some of these games down the stretch to really earn their spot. It is still very wide open right now. 49ers could win the NFC West. I think there's a chance the 49ers could be the 1 seed. I think it's a very small chance, but there is a chance. But there's also a chance that they miss the playoffs entirely, right? And I think it comes down to a stretch of games that they have over the rest of the season. They play the Rams this week. They play the Panthers in week 12, so in 2 weeks. They play the Bears and the Seahawks as their final 2 games of the regular season. So those 4 games, Rams, Panthers, Bears, and Seahawks, all of those teams are in the playoff hunt, right? So the 49ers are going to have to win those games if they really want a chance at making the postseason. Winning at least half of them, right? You've got to go at least 2-2 in those games in order to make the playoffs. And if you're able to beat the Rams and Seahawks, that would be much better for NFC West title chances. One of the weirder stats of this season for the 49ers is that they are currently 6-1 against NFC opponents so far this year. Their only NFC loss was the Buccaneers after Fred Warner went down. And that, considering what happened in that game, it could have been, a blowout, and it really wasn't. So that is extremely impressive for the 49ers. And if they're able to keep up that level of performance against the NFC, I think they've got a really good shot at making the playoffs. And then who knows, once you're in it, I guess anything can happen, right? So I think overall, right now, the 49ers are kind of floating between the top class of the NFC and the rest, the in the hunt teams, if you will. The Niners have 4 really big games remaining. One of them is this Sunday against the Rams, and you've got to win those in order to make the playoffs realistically. Like if you're able to beat, let's say they lose to the Rams this week, but they go 3-1, beating the Panthers, Bears, and Seahawks. That puts the team that would be 9-4, and then you've got to win only 5 or so more games, and then you're at 12-4, and then you're, in the NFC Championship. I'm being a little hyperbolic here, but if you can win at least 2 of those 4 games, you are really in a good spot if you're San Francisco. So do you think the 49ers will make the playoffs? Or do you think that they are doomed to be at home in February or January even? Let me know down below in the comments. Speaking of the comments, it's now time for the comments section. This, of course, is the part of the show where I go over your comments and I give my opinions. If you'd like to be featured in this segment, go ahead and leave a comment. Leave a comment right now. You could tell me how nice my hair looks or how ugly my hair looks right now. And, pretty decent shot. You'll make it into the video. Like I always say, it's like a lottery. The more comments you leave, the better shot you have at appearing in one of these videos. Thanks to everyone who has been commenting. The support has been fantastic, you guys. I really appreciate it. Let's get into these comments right now. The first one is from Jeebus. 49ers could have used a little morale boost by acquiring someone. They're overachieving right now. Reward them. Sometimes you have to slightly overpay given the circumstances. The trade deadline is the only avenue to acquiring starting level talent before the playoffs. And I think that's understandable, right? I do get what you're saying, and it's a pretty decent point. But my counter to that is, I think we should believe the guys in the locker room when they say they're not really concerned about it, right? I get that you want to honor the veterans. You want to honor George Kittle and Trent Williams and Christian McCaffrey and Deommodore Lenoir and guys who have been battling through this incredibly difficult season. But those guys, including McCaffrey, they say they don't really care about the trade deadline. McCaffrey said he wasn't paying any attention to the trade deadline. So I'm inclined to believe them when they say that, right? I'm sure that, I agree that it would be nice to reward them with some reinforcements, but those guys will tell you they don't want any pity, right? They don't need reinforcements. They'll just say next man up, right? I think that's the mentality. So you shouldn't make a trade just for the purpose of rewarding people, because I don't think they would appreciate it as much as we would if we were in their shoes, right? And also, sometimes you have to slightly overpay, sure. But remember, if we're talking about Jermaine Johnson here, the Jets declined an offer that included a second-round pick. That's not a slight overpay. That's a huge overpay. Let's say, for example, let's just say the 49ers offered the Jets a second-round pick. And I have it on pretty decent authority that the Niners were the ones to offer the second-rounder to the Jets. Let's say it was just a second-rounder straight up for Jermaine Johnson. Clearly didn't go through, right? Or else Jermaine Johnson would be in the red and gold by now. So it wasn't enough. So then what? A second and a fourth? A second and a third? This is huge. This is a ridiculous overpay. It's ridiculous. It would be a bad move. Even just giving a second-round pick straight up for Jermaine Johnson would not be a good move. I would not like the move if they did that. The 49ers most likely offered that move, and the Jets still said no. So what are you going to do? It's bad business if you keep forcing the issue, right? And then also, just to address your last point about the trade deadline being the only way to acquire starting-level talent, while I do think you're mostly correct, Asante Samuel Jr. is available right now, right? Does he play edge rusher? No. But he is available, and he's got a visit with the 49ers coming up on Monday. So it's definitely not the only way to acquire starting level talent. Now, it is probably the best way, but it is not the only way. Next comment now. This one's from James. The only guys I would have traded for are Garrett or Hendrickson. The prices were too high. The rest wouldn't have made a difference and or would have gotten injured in a week or two. And we end right where we started, with less draft picks. Yeah, good point, James, right? The prices were just too high. That's what we've been saying. It's the truth. And, if we traded a second-round pick for Jermaine Johnson and he's hurt in 3 weeks, then you're right. We're in the same spot, except this time we don't have a second-rounder. Of course, that is, the more cynical outlook. It's the more negative outlook. But at the end of the day, you've got to make trades if they're smart for the team. And there just weren't any trades available that were smart for the 49ers to make. One more comment now, and this one's from Matt. This one's about Sauce Gardner. Sauce has not developed further. There's still a chance, but holy moly, the Colts are going to be like the Titans that one year. I don't know if I fully agree. I do still like this move for the Colts, but I agree that it's a huge risk, right? The Colts are going to have to hit on some draft picks outside the first round, and 49ers fans know it's not exactly the easiest thing in the world to do. I think really what this move shows is that they are all in on Daniel Jones, right? They really trust this guy to get it done for them. I'm not sure how much I trust Daniel Jones. I don't know if I would have paid 2 first-round picks for a cornerback if Daniel Jones was my starter at QB. But, the Colts feel good about it. Jim Irsay, unfortunately, their owner passed away. And relative of his, Carly Irsay Gordon, has been taking over as CEO of the team. And she seems like she's doing a really great job. She's got the Colts in a great spot in the AFC. So I'm kind of rooting for them. I hope this trade works out for them. Of course, a couple of 49ers on that team, Charvarius Ward, DeForest Buckner, and we'll see those guys later on in the season. So that'll be a blast having to face Sauce Gardner. Oh boy. Anyways, thank you to all three of you who commented, and thank you to everyone who commented who I did not mention in this episode. Please, love the support. Keep commenting. Keep engaging with the videos. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the channel. That's all for today's episode, though, folks. Who do you guys think gets the win on Sunday? Niners or Rams? As for my prediction, I just think, unfortunately, the Rams have a little too much firepower. And after dropping their last matchup, I'm going to take the Rams to get revenge in this game, 28-20. Let me know down below what you think. And of course, let me know if you enjoyed. Leave a comment, leave a like, and let me know if there's any topics that you'd like to see me cover. Thank you all for watching, and subscribe for 49ers videos 5 days a week. I'm Brady Grustas, at Grustas Brady on X. This has been Niners Now, and I'll see you next week.